Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Random Vlogging. And if you guys are wondering why I'm not doing my normal crazy stuff, it's because I am still recovering from the worst migraine I've ever had. And I have dealt with migraine since I was in the 5th grade, so this one was a doozy. This is actually the first time I have a light shooting me in the face right now. It hurts like hell. But I wanted to talk about this. This is actually the first time I've been able, for like the past 24 hours, I've been able to have a light anywhere within even my peripheral vision without like screaming in pain. So, anyway, the reason I want to make this video um, is because this has become a massive, massive hot button topic. And 90% of the shit that you see out there is 100% certifiably wrong on both sides of the equation. Um, and so I just want to talk about my personal take on the subject and the research that I've done about it, and basically try and get people to stop basically screaming at other people that disagree with them because they're obviously wrong. And that is gun control. Yes, this is a hot button topic. I'm going to piss off a lot of people here. Congratulations. If you're pissed off by this, stop. If you have a differing opinion than me, congratulations. I think you're wrong, and you think I'm wrong, and there's nothing wrong with that. We can both be wrong. In this particular instance, especially since what I'm about to talk about, there's a very good chance that everybody is wrong in this particular instance. Um, so anyway, due to the recent school shooting and the fact that President Obama, for those of you that don't live in the U.S. and have no idea what's going on, there was a shooting at a community college that was, anytime there's a shooting anywhere, it's bad. So I don't want to say that this one was, if I remember correctly, I think 9 people died, and there are quite a few more that were wounded. I may have the numbers wrong. Again, recovering from migraine here, folks. Um, but anyway, President Obama, our current president, made a statement about it where he talked about the fact that we haven't imposed stricter gun control laws is atrocious, and he made implications that it's Congress's fault and it's our fault that we haven't put in stricter gun control laws that this happened, and made heavy implications that if there were stricter gun control laws, that something like this wouldn't have happened. That is a false statement. 100% false statement. There is absolutely 100% nothing anywhere in the world that actually would support that statement. However, it's something that a lot of people believe very strongly in. I have friends on Facebook that I hate Facebook vehemently, but I have friends on Facebook that have gone into long, long arguments where they talk about how stricter gun control laws. I had one buddy that talked about how stricter gun control laws could have prevented, I think it was like 7 or 8 of the last 9 most recent shootings could have been completely 100% prevented with stricter gun control laws, which again, there's nothing to support that statement. Nothing at all. It's just them hypothesizing. The reason so many, and then you have everybody on the other side, which are talking about how guns don't kill people, people kill people, which technically is a true statement. Um, uh, but it's misleading and everything like that. To be blunt, I tend to agree a little bit more with the anti-gun control than with the pro-gun control, simply because the ideas that these people are throwing around on the pro-gun control side have no basis, and it's just going to be an exercise in futility. And I would much rather us come up with ideas and solutions to these problems that actually will do something. So where am I getting all this information, or am I just talking out of my ass? No. One of the biggest facts that the pro-gun control party keeps throwing at us, there's a comedian, there's a comedian, he's an Australian comedian, I cannot for the life of me remember his name, but he does this bit on gun control that is hilarious. It's beautifully written. It's very, very, very well written. It's very, very funny. And one of the reasons it's so well written is he actually weaves in a lot of truth into it to come to the conclusion he does. Now, he does come to a false conclusion due to a few logical fallacies. Um, but it's hilarious. And he actually says in it, flat out, he's like, this is a comedy routine. So if I'm 100% wrong, it's supposed to be funny. That's what it is. And it is. And he's really, really brilliant. So he talks about in, I think it was 1996, there was a horrible, horrible mass shooting in Australia. And the Australian government reacted by imposing incredibly strict gun control laws. They actually bought something like 500 million guns back. Like they had mandatory buybacks of guns. And they bought literally hundreds of millions of guns from the populace and basically disarmed their populace. And they saw a massive, massive drop in violent crime in general. And the pro gun control people use this as proof that stricter gun control laws lower crime rates. The logical fallacy that they're using is the correlation causation fallacy, where basically people assume correlation equals causation. This is very common topic that's talked about in statistical analysis in general. My mother actually did for her master's thesis, she actually did something where she proved correlation between growing up in a abusive household and being involved in abusive relationships, whether being the abuser or the abusee later in life. She was able to show a correlation between them. Does that mean that if you grow up in and experience an abusive relationship when you are younger, that you will become either an abuser or abusee? No, that's what's called causation. And causation is unbelievably difficult to prove in the realm of statistical analysis. It's very, very, very difficult. Simply because there are so many variables to real life that don't exist in the lab, and so it's very, very difficult to prove. That is what people are attributing to this gun control law. They see gun control and they see violent crime drop at the same time. That's correlation. That means they both happened at the same time. That is a fact. It's actually very easy to look up. You can look up violent crime statistics for Australia. They're not difficult to find. And you can see a massive drop all throughout the 90s, to be 100% honest. The thing that kind of the thing that fights that idea of, well, it's obviously because the gun control laws, is in the United States and in Canada, we had the same drop in violent crime. If you look at violent crime from like the 1980s, early 90s, it was ginormous. There was a massive, massive drop from about 1991 to 2001. Massive, insane drop in the U.S. It happened around the same time. I don't think they were technically the exact same amount of time, but they happened right around the same time in the U.S., in Canada, and Australia. I don't know if it happened everywhere else in the world, but we do have facts that support that. So if gun control was the reason that it happened in Australia, we did not impose those gun controls. We did not remove guns from the market or anything like that. There were some stricter gun control laws that went into effect during the 90s in the U.S., but they were nowhere near as extreme as what happened in Australia, and we are still under most of those gun control laws today. So the idea that gun control actually made Australia a safer place is wrong. Everywhere, or at least, let me rephrase that, U.S. and Australia both saw massive drops in violent crime during the 90s and early 2000s. There are a ton of hypotheses as to why. I actually just went and looked up a few, and there are tons. some of which are kind of hilarious. One of which talks about abortion. Basically, they claim because abortion became legal in what was it? I don't know. Abortion became much easier in like the 70s and 80s to get, and so they claimed that higher abortion rates meant less unwanted pregnancies, and that less unwanted pregnancies meant that there weren't as many kids, flooding the streets that getting into crime and things like that. This is one of the theories that was actually who was it? Stephen Levitt and John Donahue claimed this multiple times, and for the most part, from what the research I've seen has said, it's been completely discredited due to the fact that age range, like most kids start getting involved in violent crime and things like that around age 13, and so the abortion laws would have had to be earlier for like it's very complicated and doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because I don't understand it, but it's been discredited. Another one that actually is still technically holding water is the fact that there's not as much lead. The Clean Air Act of 1970 went into effect, and so kids weren't inhaling lead and getting it from other things. And they actually have a lot of evidence that shows that uh, phasing out lead was actually responsible for 56% of the reduction in violent crime, which I just took off the Marshall Project. That's one of the places I was looking, just for random facts. They actually have stuff that shows that lead poisoning can make people commit violent crimes. So some people attribute that to it. Some people attribute the fact that criminals are getting older. Some people attribute the fact that we, around 1970s, 1980s, we started getting trigger happy with prison sentences. Some people claim that it's because crack uh, was no longer a booming market. Like it was a one generation drug. As soon as people started realizing what crack did to you, it was no longer that popular. Yes, it's still sold today. It's nowhere near as big as it was back in like the 70s and 80s. And so a lot of people claim that the crack market dying was the reason for it. The overall answer is nobody knows what happened. Absolutely none. There's also theories that better policing or the economy was better then, or I mean, there's just so many different theories. None of them are provable, and no one knows why. Um, and so the idea that if we get stricter gun control laws, that somehow these things are going to happen. There's literally nothing in the world to support that hypothesis except for dreams and hopes. Um, and there are actually a few things that discredit the hypothesis. Things like the strictest gun control laws in the country are in Chicago, which has one of the highest violent crime rates and gun death rates in the country. Like, it's super dangerous to live in Chicago, and they have massive gun control laws. And there's a couple. I think Detroit is another one that has really strict gun control laws, and it's insanely dangerous to live there. Milwaukee um, is incredibly dangerous to live, and I actually have no idea what their gun control laws are. But I lived there in the bad part of town, not just the bad part of town. I lived in the gang run part of town. It was very dangerous for me to live there. Uh, so gun control laws do not affect, uh, uh, do not have a direct causation effect with gun violence. They don't. Um, the way that I see it, and I think the thing that makes the most sense forever ago, um, I think it was John Green, uh, one of the Vlog brothers, made a brilliant video about our healthcare system and everything that was wrong with it. Because back then, the big ticket issue that everybody had an answer for that was super simple and easy was healthcare. Our healthcare system still is broken. It's massively broken. The fact that I was unable to see a doctor about something that literally left me bedridden for like 24 hours, uh, and I have insurance, shows that our healthcare system is still broken. Because I wasn't sure if I went to the emergency room. Emergency rooms are ungodly expensive, and I wasn't sure if I would be able to pay for it. even with insurance. Even with, like, I actually technically have pretty decent insurance due to the fact that I'm a student and I'm unemployed. My insurance pays for a lot for me. And even then, I didn't think I'd be able to afford it because it's just that expensive to go to the emergency room in this country. Um, and so he talks about, um, I think he goes through maybe a dozen different things that all add into the fact that our healthcare system is broken. Um, and it's fascinating. If I can find it, I'll try and leave a link in the description. I'm not sure if I can find it anymore. But it was a fascinating, very, very well done video where he talks about all these different things. And the main point of the video was there's no simple answer. There's no band-aid that's going to fix this completely. It doesn't work that way. If we want to fix our healthcare system, we have to get a ton of people working together on all the problems, not deciding one problem is the reason all of this happens and making big steps that we think will fix that problem when in all actuality it's just a knee-jerk reaction to a bad situation. And that's what happens. That's what's happening with gun control right now. Let's say we get gun control laws as strict as they are in Chicago, and we see the exact same thing that happens in Chicago, which is not an unlikely situation. You know, it's the idea of, you know, what is insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. If we do basically make everywhere Chicago, we can expect that one of the outcomes could be that everything becomes like Chicago. Violent crime raises astronomically because criminals know that nobody's carrying guns except for them, so they have no fear of going out and just mowing people down because they don't have to worry about getting shot themselves. That is theoretically a possibility. Am I saying it's the only possibility? No. So that theoretically could happen. When it doesn't work, which again, there's absolutely zero evidence to say that stricter gun control laws will do anything to stop violent crime or gun crimes in general. And like I said, there's evidence that shows the exact opposite will happen. But who cares about evidence? What are we going to do then? Then we're going to find another hot button topic and say, well, it's because of this, and then we're going to attack that. And in medicine, it's called treating the symptoms, not the disease. You know, the disease is what's causing these school shootings. The disease is what's causing violent crime and things like that in this country, not guns. However, guns play a part in it. Guns are part of the problem, but they're a symptom. They're not the disease. We need to find out what the underlying disease is instead of making these rash judgment and you know, jump scares and things like that. So, yeah, the other logical fallacy that a lot of people are using is it's called the black and white fallacy. A really great example of it is the idea of you're either with me or against me. What it does is it eliminates the possibility for any other solutions. You give just two solutions. It's a logical fallacy used in debate often because it's very effective simply because you take away your opponent's ability to come up with a better argument when you go, well, you have to use this or this. And you know that both arguments, only one of them actually works because that's the one that you want. So that's what a lot of people are doing with this is they're basically using the black and white fallacy by stating, hey, either you see that guns are the problem, that we need stricter gun control laws, or you're stupid. And this is what I see on Facebook. This is what I see in Congress. This is what I see coming from the President of the United States. Listen, stricter gun control laws are the only reason this is happening, and unless we do it, we are evil, disgusting people. That's not true. It's a logical fallacy. There are a lot of things that caused that tragedy to happen. The fact that, I mean, they have messages that I've heard 70 different stories about this this person that did this crime. One of the ones that I've heard multiple times, which generally means If you can find it in multiple sources, it generally means there's at least a kernel of truth in there. A lot of it is still speculation and crazy shit. But one of the ones that I heard was he said something about, everyone's going to be talking about me. And this is something that, from my very basic understanding, this is something that's very common with a lot of these people that do mass violence, is the idea that they feel nobody knows them, nobody cares about them, and if they do this, they will be remembered. This person is remembered. I am refusing to use their name or talk about them in any way other than the third person, simply because that's what we're doing. We're glorifying these acts by giving them all the coverage in the world. And every time the media does that, and every time we focus and fixate on all this stuff, we make this huge deal about stuff like this, we create more people. And that is not the only problem. If the media just completely ignored it and we made these people fade into obscurity, it would still happen. Because that's not the underlying disease, that's a symptom. All of these are symptoms. And if we put all the symptoms together, we figure out all the different things that are happening and put all the symptoms together, we may eventually be able to find the underlying cause. And guess what, folks? The underlying cause is not going to be something that can be fixed with an executive order or a law from Congress. It's simply not. This is a problem with our culture. This is a problem with how we view the sanctity of life. This is not something that can be fixed with a law or fixed with a stern talking to or fixed with a bracelet or an awareness campaign. This is something that is going to take a long time to fix because it is a devastatingly horrible, bad, complex problem. So please, the next time you see someone on either side using these false correlation or false causation fallacies or the black and white fallacy, call them out for what they're doing. Actually, you're using this fallacy. It's a logical fallacy, and you're coming to a poor conclusion because of it. So just stop. Call them out for it. Stop talking about it. Don't argue. Don't call them stupid. Just go, hey, you made a mistake. This is what logic says. This is how it doesn't work. And let's stop arguing about whether or not making guns more difficult to purchase or making it illegal for people like me to own a gun because I have a mental disability is going to change anything. No, it's not. It's a political tool used by people to get into office. It's a political tool used to improve polls and things like that. It has nothing to do with actually helping anybody. We need to actually figure out what it is that's causing these people to do these horrible things. And it has nothing to do with their ability to get guns. It has nothing to do with their mental state, which, another fun fact, there actually isn't even a correlation between mental health and violent crimes. And there's actually significantly more proof that substance abuse and a history of abusive behavior is actually incredibly accurate in predicting people that will do things like this, instead of whether or not they have depression or anxiety or schizophrenia or any other of a multitude of mental illnesses that are completely controllable and are stigmatized in our culture just due to a severe lack of understanding. So, yes, let's stop trying to think this is a simple solution. Let's stop. It's stupid. It makes us seem ignorant. It really does. And it doesn't help anybody. 100% it doesn't help a damn person. And if these laws get passed, it's not going to help. Well, it's not going to do anything because we're treating the symptoms, not the cause. And that's how it is. So, yes, this is an incredibly long rant. And this is the longest that I've been in light in 24 hours. And now I have to go take a a pre-final for a finance course because I love to abuse myself. So yes, I am. I'm unbelievably tired of listening to people argue about the idea that all of this could have been prevented with a single executive order or a single law. It couldn't. 100% it couldn't. We take the guns out of their hands, they'll find a way. Like literally, if we outlawed and destroyed every single gun in the world, still would happen because it's not guns that are doing this. It as much as technically this is a cliched statement that I hate hearing. It's not the guns that are killing people. People are killing people, and we need to figure out why the people are killing people. Not make it harder for them to do because all that means is they have to work just that little bit harder to do it. That's it. The human body is unbelievably fragile. It's bizarre how easy it is to end a life. Um, Everything from getting into a car accident to tripping and falling in the wrong place can end your life instantly. And that's how our bodies work. So the idea that somehow preventing all these things could be prevented simply because people don't have a way to fling metal into someone else's body at incredibly high speeds is bonkers. There are so many other ways to end somebody's life incredibly efficiently. Um, so yes, sorry this is a little bit dark, but again, I am in a massive amount of pain. So yes, that's all for me today. Uh, I will be doing Tuesday as long as my head stops hurting. I will be doing Kingdom of the Kale Isle. I will see you guys on Tuesday for some Kingdom of the Kale Isles on my Twitch channel. All right, bye bye.